we have back with us again today Scott Ritter, who is a veteran Marine Corps intelligence officer, a former United Nations weapons inspector, and now one of the most sought-after military analysts in the business. Scott, always a delight to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, listen, let's just get right into this. This is kind of breaking news because President Trump just said this a short while ago, that he's going to have this automatically open. Gary, if you could roll down a little bit in that article, one thing I wanted to highlight there is he said, we're not going to be there too much longer. We're obliterating the blank out of them right now to total obliteration, but we won't have to be there much longer. We will have more work to do in terms of killing their offensive, whatever capacity they have left. So it sounds like he's still trying to say, well, there's a military solution to this, so don't worry. How do you interpret that?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump is not a military expert. I know he's the commander-in-chief, but the man wouldn't know anything about the military if called upon to articulate further. Blowing the bleep out of them. What does that mean? Well, what it should mean is that we're in the midst of a strategic air campaign that has specific targets, goals, and objectives that are laid out. But we know what the targets, goals, and objectives were. Regime change and preventing Iran from being able to launch ballistic missiles and drones. Both of those have failed. Pete Hegseth has bragged about, having 1,000 bombs hit 1,000 targets a day. I've been involved in strategic air campaign targeting. 1,000 targets a day is a lot of targets. And if you're doing that day after day after day for 3 weeks plus straight, that means you don't know what you're bombing. You're literally just trying to put ordnance out there, which means we're going back to a flawed concept that took place during the Gulf War, when near the end of the campaign, when we weren't killing what needed to be killed through air power, the Air Force said, we'll just have a formula that if we drop X many bombs, that means we destroyed X percentage of capability. It wasn't that way. The Army ended up killing the vast majority of the Iraqi equipment in ground-to-ground combat. The Air Force wasn't as effective as they thought they were. Here we have a pure air-driven campaign with bad targeting, bad intelligence, because if it was good intelligence, they wouldn't be launching missiles at us today, now would they? If it was good intelligence, they wouldn't have a regime in place that continues to tell us to pound sand, now would they? People need to wake up and understand that Pete Hegseth is the most incompetent Secretary of Defense. I won't call him Secretary of War because Congress hasn't designated him as such, and I'm a believer in Congress and the Constitution. So he's the Secretary of Defense. He's very incompetent, doesn't know what he's doing, and therefore he's unable to pass on to the president any insight or wisdom. The president is simply just babbling nonsense. They don't even brief this guy right. The president gets a short video presentation every day, update on the war. He has no idea what's going on. He's just looking at, images put together by some combat camera crew designed to make the president happy. It's war porn. And this president appears to like it and believes it. But I'm telling you right now, nothing is happening in Iran that resembles anything that Pete Hegseth or President Trump is saying.
And what is happening that he can't really get around, and that is the price of oil, because that continues to go up, and it stays up now. Both Brent and WTI are both hovering over 100 now, and that's only going to continue to go up every day. The Strait stays closed is more and more pressure, and that's why I think one of the things pushing President Trump right now to try and find an off ramp. This one graphic right here is one of the big ones. Here is that now that the average price of gasoline in the United States is over $4 a gallon. It has gone up $1.05 since late February, and that is apparently one of the fastest climbs that it's had since then. No evidence it's going to back down anytime soon. Not surprisingly, the right concurrent with that is Trump's job approval ratings. Of course, this is from Fox News, which doesn't like to give him bad news, but you see overall his disapproval at 59%. But on the Iran war, 64%, 71% on inflation. All of these are tied together. The economy, foreign policy, he's way underwater on all of those. Do you think that that's going to provide the impetus for him to try and find a way to get this off the table?
Well, he has no other choice. There it is, the daily video montage briefing. Good job, Donnie. You don't know anything by watching the video. I'm sorry, Colonel, I shouldn't allow myself to get distracted by these things, but they're
understandable.
Bill Clinton, when he was running for president the first time, was told it's the economy, stupid. That's what, sadly, that's what Americans vote on, the economy. Americans I don't mean to insult your audience. They're probably a very well-informed audience, but Americans at large don't know anything about the world we live in. We're literally the most ignorant people about the world we live in. Most people couldn't point Iran out on a map, couldn't describe the various geographical factors. Maybe today people are caught up in the war and they might know something, but they don't know anything about Iran. They don't know anything about the Iranian people, what their religion is, about what we're doing, whatever. But they do know that they're paying more at the gas pump. I know that. When this war started, $3.11. I just pumped yesterday. It was I think $4.09. Nearly gone up $1. And over time that plays out. You put 60 gallons in your car a week, that's $60. I don't know about you. I don't have $60 to start throwing around like that willy-nilly here and there. We're coming up on summer pretty soon. Summer is the big, travel season. More important, not more important, but equally as important, or maybe more, because we're talking about multi-billion-dollar industries. The price of jet fuel went from like $750 per ton to $1,750 per ton. Airlines can't just absorb this. That means the price is going to be passed on to the consumer, who's not going to fly. And if they don't fly, airlines are grounded. A friend who's an airline, a flight attendant, she could be out of a job, and so could thousands of others out there. Pilots are out of a job. The people that work at the airports. We're talking about a major aspect of the American economy will be literally grounded because of the stupidity of Donald Trump. Where's his plan? I mean, even if we stop the war now, we may not be able to salvage the summer travel season, because it's going to take some time for the economy to catch up. We don't have a strategic, jet fuel reserve to draw upon. And if we did, it was being used to fuel the jets that Pete Hegseth sends them to fly over Iran and bomb them 1,000 times a day. And there's the other thing, 1,000 times a day. That means we're hitting civilian infrastructure. I mean, now this war was an illegal war of aggression to begin with, no justification under international law or the United States Constitution. And that makes Pete Hegseth and everybody else a war criminal by default. I mean, literally, this is a war crime. Every day we do this, everything we do is a war crime. You want to put boots on the ground? That's a war crime. You want to drop more bombs? That's a war crime. So all the people out there cheerleading this war, all you do is cheerleading war crimes. But we don't know what we're bombing, which means we're starting to bomb everything. Civilian targets. We're killing civilians. We have been killing them from the very first. I mean, in addition to the Manab girls' school, 175 dead girls between the ages of 6 and 12, we blew up a girls' volleyball game. Man, come on, Pete. That was pretty good targeting, wasn't it, pal? Put a missile right there. Well, it wasn't a missile, one of our advanced missiles, because we're testing out weapons, because we're America. We're the greatest military that walked the face of the earth. So we have defense industry produce new weapons. They say, hey, we're going to war against Iran. Let's take one of our new weapons and fire it in there. And they hit a girls' volleyball game in process. That's what we're doing. And every day he wants to bomb them into obliteration. He's not bombing anything. Study your history, ladies and gentlemen. Strategic air campaigns were launched against Germany and Japan during World War II. They did not break the will of the people to fight, and they did not retard the industry. Both Germany and Japan were producing more by the end of the war than they were at the beginning of the war. The Iranians have been planning this war now for 2 decades. They are building more. You think we've stopped their missile production? Think again. They're building them underground, just as where the Messerschmitt production went underground. Underground, they're building them, and we don't know how to stop them. And they're sitting there kicking our butts. I mean, there's not one aspect of this war that we're winning. If people want to point to putting bombs on the ground, that's not winning, ladies and gentlemen. That's losing.